to get us back to the Parker case, so the issue was whether these contiguous lands that border the primitive area would be included in the wilderness review at the same time that the timber company is wanting to build a road through this area.
See, and that would preempt any possible review. So the wilderness, as Cliff Merritt so dynamically described, is when you look at a picture, when you think of wilderness, or when you look ahead as you're walking in, the picture is a picture that unfolds. You walk through the trees, and then you walk through the Krumholtz, that line between alpine and the trees, and then you walk to the alpine and the crest, and he painted this marvelous picture, which was spellbinding to Judge William Doyle, which worked that's when I tried to make myself as small as possible. I retreated way back so that I was almost against the bar, away from the table.
As the plaintiff Cliff Merritt, or the expert Cliff Merritt, was talking to Judge Doyle in the Parker case?
Yes, and that colloquy, which is imprinted in my memory because it was so fine. I mean, it was really, you live for those moments, right? And it just, you won the case. The colloquy it was pretty extensive because Doyle would stop and think. And he turned his chair. And Cliff was as perfect in his waiting for the judge. He just comfortably sat there, looked at him, and then the judge would speak up, and then Cliff was very deliberate guy. So there was no mistaking what he said. See, the judge never had to say, well, will you speak louder? I didn't understand that last part. And that colloquy probably lasted, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't last 10 minutes, probably, and in that period of time, you win your case. I had a whole bunch of issues, and I went back to counsel table, and I had 5 volunteer lawyers there at various ages. One was a law professor at CU. And they looked at me, and a couple said, are we going to start on these other issues after Cliff is done? I said, no, we're going to head for the door. I said, we want that to be the last memory the judge has of plaintiff's case. We don't want any other shit in there. You don't spoil a perfect thing.
I'm still not quite clear why these plaintiffs wanted to have this maintained as wilderness.
Well, because first of all, it was trees, and had lakes and streams. It's a beautiful area.
They just cared about the land.
Yeah. They did. Vail was interested, had a commercial interest. See, Aspen had the maroon bells. It's always had the maroon bells. They're there.
And they were designated as part of the 1964 Wilderness Act.
Yeah, they were in, and that was a larger primitive area. And Vail knew that they would have to have a mountain attraction, have something more than just skier.
So their interest was in having this wilderness be adjacent.
At the time, that wasn't a major consideration, but they were looking, the formative folks in Vail were looking around and saying, if we're going to have a big super resort, we've got to have several things. We can't just be skiing. And so there was that dynamic. But the most important thing is they just wanted to hike and enjoy the wildlife. And they wanted to have some woods to hike in and that kind of thing. And they didn't want them all cut down. So their sentiments were wholly environmental. People couldn't imagine that you would go into U.S. District Court and you wouldn't know quite how it was going to come out. But I couldn't tell them any other thing.
The Monroe King hadn't been ruled yet for standing.
No.
You just had Storm King. It was all pretty nascent.
Yeah, that was about it. We might have had the Trans-Alaska Pipeline case. Jim might have filed that.
I think he had by that point.
Yeah. So that would have been, and then Ned Fritz down in Texas had filed a bunch of stuff, but that stuff never became mainstream or never became part of the picture of us, you know, the small number of lawyers we had trying to figure all this stuff out.
Had you heard about those cases?
Oh yeah.
So it was just in the discussion.
Yeah, telephone calls. I mean, I repeat, there was no internet. So you hear about these things, and you know, you speculate over the phone, you talk, you have meetings that you can, you know, have aside moments where you can get together with Phil or some of that kind of stuff and talk it out. I mean, much of the conversation was for reinforcing purposes, you know, since nobody really knew, you see, so you tested your ideas out.
With each other.
Yeah, and it had a reinforcing, you know, thought, well, you know, I'm not totally crazy, right? I mean, it may be a little crazy. I hope I'm a little crazy, but you know, within certain bounds.